Namaste, madam. How are you?
I'm fine, thank
Fine.
you.
It's a pleasant morning meeting
But I
you
can't hear you properly. There's too much of disturbance.
from my end.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you,
Yeah,
but
now I can hear you better. Yeah,
it's
otherwise there
but
was disturbance.
now it is okay.
Yeah, it is.
It's a
Yeah,
very pleasant morning to have you in this webinar, ma'am. Really great to
thank,
see you.
thank you.
Shall we go ahead with the webinar? Straight?
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
are on.
sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Very good morning to everyone. Today we are on fourth day of seventh five-day webinar series from Gandhigram Rural Institute, deemed to be university. This is a very pleasant day in Delhi, and I am really thankful to our Chancellor, Dr. K.M. Annamalai, for guiding us in this webinar series to reach the next destination and the next destination by increasing the bars. And our Vice Chancellor, Dr. M.R. Kubendran, and our Registrar, Dr. V.P.R. Swathma, for supporting us in all weather conditions. While thanking them, I should be thanking, I must thank all the speakers of this webinar in the past and in the future, those who have done justice to their turn of day and delivering one of the fantastic lectures delivered so far. Today also is a very special day. We have a very distinguished personality, Mrs. Usha Srinivasan with us. She is going to talk about a very different subject, which is on the title of the day is ZERI, Zero Emission Research Initiatives Beyond Sustainability. This is the title of the day, and Usha ji is with us for delivering the lecture. Before getting into the lecture, let me first introduce Usha ji. She's a senior advisor. Usha Srinivasan has vast experience in managing the environmental related work nationwide. CLEAN, that is Community Led Environment Action Network, India program for development alternatives addressing the issues of clean water, clean air, climate change, and global warming, biodiversity conservation, checking for food adulteration, and waste management, involving and influencing the community through a network of over million students, thousands of teachers, and approximately 28 NGOs from 78 cities across India. The program involves the children and the youth as a prime agents of change who motivate their friends and communities, establishing a meaningful connection between learning and skills. And the key focus for action is the local level of involving all stakeholders from school students, communities, NGOs, local, civic, and government bodies, and people those who are concerned. Her authored papers, training manuals, and books on science, including textbooks for middle schools, astronomy, books for amateur astronomers, and Hello Stars for DST, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, and Environment. She is a recipient of National Science Talent Scholarship, National Award for Innovative Science Teaching, and for popularization of astronomy and environment in schools. National awards like Manthan Award and international awards like Global Junior Challenge Youth Incubator Award for Clean India website. He is also an active member of Commission of Education and Communication IUCN, the World Conservation Union, the Tree Authority, which is Government of India, Government of Delhi Initiative, SCERT panel on environmental education, Government of Delhi, Governing Council, Sikshantar School, coordinator of Earth Charter Program as an affiliate, India affiliate, founding member of Civil Services Society. I welcome Mrs. Usha Srinivasan. She did her honors from in chemistry and done MEd and MPhil in education and diploma in fine arts. I welcome you really today. I am proud of welcoming you on behalf of Gandhigram fraternity. Welcome, Usha ji. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we are able to
Yeah,
hear you.
okay. Good afternoon, friends. It gives me great pleasure to be amidst all of you. And I would like to thank the Gandhigram Institute for giving me this opportunity because, as you in your introduction, you told about the Clean India program. Gandhigram Institute was a partner, not just an
Yes,
ordinary partner, but a very special partner that I have to mention here because the waste management program that we did with Gandhigram Institute was actually one international acclaim award, and also it was selected as one of the best 5 case studies in South Asia. And there was a film made on this also, which was actually shot at Gandhigram Institute and outside in Dindikal. So I have this great pleasure because I wanted to share this with you. It is something special for me. And of course, I belong to Srivilliputtur in Tamil Nadu, though I live in Delhi now. And so, namaskaram. So I'll start. What
namaskaram,
I'm
Amma.
going to do is my whole presentation is based on slides. So I will be having the slides, and I hope you can.
It was
It was
appearing
appearing
very
very
nicely.
nice.
I know. Yeah.
Now you
Now
can
you
go
can
ahead.
go ahead.
Now I can go ahead. Okay. So probably I can go to the next slide. Yeah. This is a. It was
Established.
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 Yeah, 1994 by Gunter Pauli at the United Nations University. And it was not that just one person started it. Of course, it's his brainchild, I should say, but it was a global network of creative minds across, as it says, global, across many countries in the world. And Dr. Ashok Khosla, who is a chairperson of Development Alternatives, was also one of the founders. And why? What was the need to start such an initiative? It is actually to seek sustainable solutions to problems. And these are all starting from ideas which are based completely on science. It's completely scientific. And who is it for? It is for societies or for unreached communities as well as for corporates, because you have to address the interests at both ends. So that is why this has been designed like that, and it is inspired by nature's principles, design principles. The science behind ZERI is doing it the nature's way, because nature now knows how to do the operations or systems best. They've been there for millions and millions of years, and they know how to manage the energy flow, they know how to manage the waste flow, they know how to manage the food flow, everything in the natural way at the ambient temperature and pressure. They do not have pressure cookers to cook their food or whatever. We'll talk about it later. So this is called biomimicry, which is the science of the cutting edge of this century. And this, who are all involved? These are all innovators from all walks of life. It is not just only scientists, but we have business leaders also, architects, designers. All of them actually look at the various issues and try to find solutions, and they create the sustainable design. Actual more important thing is optimizing rather than maximizing, which is important. And business models which are operate without any emissions or waste. That is the most important thing. When you close that waste loop, you save a lot in terms of resources, in terms of economy, better profits, and also for the consumer, also low costs. So that is why this is ZERI, which is zero emissions. That is what is the aim. And this is all done in evolution with nature, because we are part of nature, so we cannot consider ourselves somewhere on the top of the pyramid, but as a part of nature, without destroying, without affecting the ecological balance. How is it that we can solve the problems? So it is basically based on the 5 kingdoms of nature and the 5 design principles. Next slide, can I go? Yeah, this, of course, we all of us know about these 5 kingdoms: the animal, plant, protista or algae, fungi, and bacteria. Next slide, please. So the design principles, the first one: no species eats its own waste. Waste of one is food for another species in another kingdom. So this basic principle is applied in industries. That is, waste of one industry is a valuable input for another industry. That is how this loop of 10 to 12 industries have been designed and built, and they are operational in Japan, Germany, etc. And this is what happens. Any solid, liquid, gas waste or emissions, heat, everything, wastewater, all this is used for the next industry. A simple example is, we all know that when tomato ketchup is made, the peels are thrown away, only the pulp is used, and that peel, one has to see what can be done with it, not maximizing but optimizing the use. So the next industry which will be put up there will be that of whether edible, it can be used in edible colors, it can be used in cosmetics, lipsticks, which are so safe. Otherwise, you use some harmful pigments to color them. So this is one small example. There are many like that, where the output from waste from one industry becomes the input for the next industry. And the second principle is, whatever is toxic a toxic for a species will not be a toxic for another species in another kingdom. It can be neutral, or sometimes it is beneficial too. So for this, the example is, in old gold mines, what happens is there is a leachate of cyanide, so which is so harmful, toxic, it affects the soil and water. So the solution, simple solution, how the nature would do it is apples. So you plant apple trees and cyanide is taken away by those trees. So you have solved the problem. Next, third one is, when highly complex systems operate, the viruses remain inactive or even disappear without causing any harm, passing through to other kingdoms. Say, for example, if you try to kill the virus within the system, during a certain course of time, it will actually uh, uh, spoil the system itself. The system will degenerate. For example, a simple example I'm going to take: antibiotics are given to kill viruses in our bodies. What does it do? Even one dose of antibiotic can cause harm to the intestinal flora. So now the recent most news that I was reading about was, cancer is treated using the immune system of the body itself.
Oh.
So we need to look at those possibilities which are already, happening around the world. Next is more, this is of course all of us know, more diverse and local the systems, more efficient and resilient will be their operations. So we actually, for example, we want to eat, say, a strawberry ice cream, something exotic. So strawberry comes from one place, it has to be transported. The milk has to come from some other place. The ice cream is made in the third place, and the packaging material comes from a fourth place. And all this is packed together, and it has to be sent through refrigerated vehicles to wherever it has to be sold. So all these things leave a huge ecological footprint. That is why our ecological footprint is almost going to become twice that of the size of Earth. And also, sometimes what we do is, we introduce non-native species into our system. What happens is, the whole ecosystem will degenerate. This has happened in Delhi because in the Delhi Ridge, which is supposed to be called the lung of Delhi, uh, Vilayati Kikad we call, that was planted, and to just green the area and also as green fodder. But what happened was, that overtook the whole jungle, and the whole biodiversity of that forest was destroyed. The whole ecosystem was destroyed because it would not allow any other plants to grow properly. And the last one is, of course, this is also very important. All of them are important, and the solutions are based on these principles. So these are very important for us. All kingdoms combine, integrate, and separate matter. And all this happens at ambient temperature and pressure. For example, the spider, it makes its web, that silk that is it's weaving, is at ambient temperature and pressure. With what does it make? With the fungi from its guts and bacteria to control the process, and the plant material as food. So we follow these examples. I'm going to come back to spiders later in one of the case studies. Next slide, please. So we used to think of or talk of rather green economy. That's why I said beyond sustainability, because sustainability itself, you define it in a different way. Probably it was defined in 1960s in a different way. Now we have to have a relook at what did we call sustainable at that point of time. So what happened was the green economy, which was introduced, it was because companies had to invest more and consumers had to pay more. We all know that if we go for organic food, food that is labeled organic is much more expensive than the other. So substitution of one product or process to the other, saying that it is a green way of doing it, it might lead to consequences and sometimes collateral damages. Here I'm going to talk of a use of corn. See, corn is a staple food in many for people in many countries across the world. Now people started using corn for making. Should I continue?
Yep, yep, please.
Okay, corn as fuel stock and as bioplastics. So what happened was the cost of corn went up. Not just that, to meet the demands and a particular type of corn which is required for biofuel and bioplastics, there was genetically modified corn introduced. So that spoiled the scene even more. So that is how we understand that this way of approaching is not sustainable. So what is the alternative? Next slide, please. A blue economy. It's not just a jargon. We can also call it the green economy 2.0. So let us look at sustainability with a different in a different light. What is it supposed to do? We invest less, not invest more, but we invest less, but we innovate more with creative ideas, and we generate multiple product cycles. We are not going to generate just one. It has to be a multiple product cycle. I'll give you some case studies where you can see this happening. And these things lead to multiple cash flows also, creates more jobs, and builds up social capital, which is very important for sustainability, and it also stimulates entrepreneurship, which leads to, we are not just talking about only environmental sustainability, we are talking about environmental, social, and economic sustainability. Can I go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so I'm going to take some case studies. Next slide. Yeah, this is a school for disadvantaged boys in Suva in Fiji. So these boys, what they used to do was they had land and they used to farm there, and whatever food they got, it was used for the children. But under the ZERI program, what was done was there was 5 healthy new enterprises, because Suva has a beer brewery, and the sludge from there was actually thrown out, and they had a problem of disposing it also. But then these boys collected that sludge from the brewery and used as a substrate to grow mushrooms. So a very nutritious product which is available, and the excess of it, of course, marketed. Then the enzymes produced by these mushrooms, they transform the substrate into nutritious cattle feed. So that is another economic stream or cash stream or food stream, we can call it. Then waste from the cattle is used in biodigester, which gives the biofuel. This is the third stream. And biodigester, we know that in that itself, the COD and BOD comes down by 70 to 80%. So the rest of the BOD, COD to be removed, they are collected in shallow ponds for aerobic purposes. And the output is algae. So they have a fish pond. So that becomes a food for the fish. So another output. And then the dikes which are around the fish pond, they are covered with polyculture of fast growing plants, so providing biological control of pests. And last but not the least, can I see the last one, please?
Yeah. Yeah.
Last slide.
Half of the corn. Should I
I
read?
can just like that say it's okay. If people can see it, it's okay. So hydroponic crop cultivation also. So you see that instead of just one farming practice in the school, what has been achieved. So this is the way the systems work. So you have a multiple food flow, multiple cash flow, and this is more sustainable. That is now let us go to the next slide, please. That's another case study. Yeah, this is from a place called La Gaviotas in East Colombia, which started off as reforestation program. I will go to the next slide and come back to it later. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So this says, see, in 1992 Kyoto Protocol, after that, Japan donated some money to La Gaviotas to green 8,000 hectares of land there. The land was just barren with not even a blade of grass, and the place there was hardly any food. So, hunger, poverty, everything was there, and of course, no jobs, no employment means you can just imagine what kind of a place it was. All because the pH of that soil was so acidic, it was 4. You can imagine how acidic it is. So, if you want to grow something in it, what do you do? So, the easiest was using mycorrhizal fungi so that the pH balance is made, and then the afforestation program was very successful. And in 10 years' time, what has happened? Let's look at all the multiple things that have happened because of one initial action of afforestation. One is, of course, successful afforestation itself. Then the place which did not have rains, it had 10% more precipitation, and making that a supplier of crystalline water of very high quality, and so much of water that they bottled it, and just like Kinley and Aquafina and all, they were selling bottled water. They have started selling bottled water. And the resin from pine trees, these are converted to colophonium, a raw material for paint and paper industry. Again, another marketing and product, cash product. And supplementary plantation of 300 hectares of palm trees were also taken up. Here, the palm oil is not used for any other purpose, but it is for biofuel. So now they have a plant there with the capacity of 1 million gallons of biofuel it produces. So that is another product which comes out of this. Now, the next one is, of course, hydroponic food cultivation. And all this has resulted in creating, where there was almost zero job opportunity, it has created opportunity for 1,20,000 jobs. So this is in a region which was considered to be center of nowhere. So if it can be done in that place, it can be done in any other place also. So this is what is about La Gaviotas. And next slide, please. Yeah, the second case study that I'm taking is about coffee waste. See, we all drink coffee, but then the uses 0.2% of it is used, 99.8% is waste. We can't allow that. So again, we look at multiple products and multiple cash flows. So next slide, please. Yeah, I hope you can all see this. It's not a very good picture. So coffee and more, this is called, you can see the huge loops there, which looks at all the waste cycles and the input cycle, etc. We start with the coffee plant, okay? From the coffee beans, of course, we from the coffee plant, we get the coffee seeds. And then what happens is the waste is used as a substrate for growing mushrooms. And coffee waste is so good to grow this shiitake and reishi, all these exotic mushrooms, which are very, very, very expensive. Some of them cost more than 1,000 rupees a kilo. So that mushroom is produced. Of course, it is used for local purposes as well as for exports. And now, because of the enzyme action of these mushrooms on the substrate becomes fit to be fed to cattle and pig. Otherwise, you cannot give the coffee waste. It cannot be used as cattle feed. But once the enzymes grow on them, then you can use them as cattle and pig feed. And the waste from there goes to the biodigester, then the biofuel, then energy, all those things. That's another one cycle. And then the earthworms from there is a chicken feed. And so you see that there is a whole cycle of products, I mean, waste products going to something useful. So this is again another multiple cash flow and multiple product flow. Can I go to the next one, please? Yeah, this is an interesting story of a girl called Chido Govera. She is from Zimbabwe in a small village, and like many villages there, they, many people had AIDS. So her parents also, both of them died when she was just 12 years old, leaving this poor girl with, she had to take care of a blind grandmother and an younger brother. And she was just 12 years old. So she was abused very badly by her uncles and many people in that village. It happened to many other girls too. But this girl said, I'm not going to take it like this. So she went ahead and got herself trained to grow mushrooms on coffee waste because that village, around that village, they were growing coffee. So she learned how to grow mushrooms on coffee waste. So what happened was people got food and she didn't stop there. She trained many other people to grow. And this became a cash flow for them, food, nutrition. So, this actually, as you can see in the slide itself, cash crop, which is a food security. So, because of food security, it eliminates abuse. Earlier, girls were married off also by the time, like our old times, by the time they were 10 or 12 and all for their own safety. But all that stopped. Just this one girl. She didn't stop with her own village only. She has done it in many other places and she has won this sustainability award one. She has written a book also. And the coffee that goes from the place is called Chido's Blend. And it is sold from many outlets across the world through Starbucks also. And the wonderful thing about it is some percentage of the profit from there goes to the initiative that she has started, which says One Woman's Hope for the Future. It's really a wonderful thing that this girl has done. So I was so impressed with her that I invited her to India, to Delhi, and she spoke to many of the Delhi school children and taught them also how to grow mushrooms on agri waste. And inspired by that, the Delhi Government Environment Department introduced this activity into the Eco Club activities of Delhi schools. And we didn't stop there. I took her to our Taragram. Taragram is our technical village where it is for technical application for rural advancement. We have it in Orcha. So where we have these rural women and men, mainly it is for sustainable livelihoods for rural women. So she went there, stayed with the women there in the Gaushala for a month and trained those women to grow mushrooms on waste. So I really thankful to her and all the best wishes to her also, a girl with so much of grit and courage and determination and did so much for not just for her or the village, but for many other people. Next slide, please. Yeah, now I'm going to tell you a story. This is from, see, ZERI also has fables. These are stories, but they have science behind them. So instead of teaching science, you tell a story and then through that you teach science. Now, this is a story of a zebra and a termite. They have a conversation. So the termite asks the zebra, how is it that you keep yourself so cool? So the zebra says, can't you see the, sorry, I'll just drink water and come if you don't mind.
Please, please.
Please, please.
I should have kept a glass of water here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's okay. Yeah, sorry. So that's black and white stripes actually keep the zebra cool. I mean, it's very scientific, very logical because black absorbs the heat and white reflects the heat. So it keeps itself cool. Nature has, God has given that to him. And then termite says, don't be too proud of yourself. I am an architect who has built a house which is air conditioned because and in the termite hill where the termites live, the temperature is always 30 to 35 degrees, whatever be the temperature outside. So they have built their termite hill so beautifully. That is, there is a central big chimney kind of a thing, and surrounding it are thinner ones. And they have holes and they have tunnels under the ground connecting these chimneys. So what happens is, on a hot day when the sun is moving across the sky, the air in the smaller chimneys, they get heated up, they become lighter and go out of the chimney. And in the bigger chimney, the air goes down to occupy the space, and so it cools also the tunnels, and it also allows fresh oxygen to come in from outside through the bigger chimney. So this whole cycle continues, and at night, of course, it reverses. Now, this has been applied, this has inspired many architects, and this has been used in buildings. How are they doing it in buildings? Instead of having those chimneys, what they have done is they have concrete blocks with pores in them. So those pores in the concrete blocks act as those holes in the termite hills. And they also have underground, and underground in the sense like basement. They have tunnels connecting those things. So this has inspired. So many times we get inspired by what is happening in nature. So there is no electricity used. There is no air conditioner required. So it is an air conditioned building without air conditioners. Can we go to the next one, please? Yeah, this is, I told you, I'll go back to the spider again. Now, spider and moth, they all make their silk, actually. They make silk, and it is made from amino acids. They convert that into the polymers. Now, how do they do it? Because they don't use any temperature, pressure, no machinery. Spider, of course, uses its fungi. So what has been done is, this is the photograph of the scientist who actually did it first. Mix yeast, sugar, and water. So what happens is you get a product, and which is actually spun like silk, just like in cellulose you do in inside water. The same way it is done, and pressure and water changes the geometry at a nanoscale. So that becomes our silk, which is compared. Sorry, something is affecting. It's not even that cold today. Yeah, so this silk is much better than titanium. So it finds application in nerve repair and as suture thread in hospitals and in bone marrow supplements. So it's so strong, but it has been made just with what? Yeast, sugar, and water, and no heat applied, nothing. Underwater, and at a nanoscale you have produced, just like the spider has woven its web. Next, please. Yeah, so colors but no pigments, is that possible at all? Yes. We know that colors, whenever we say paint, that means we at once think titanium, lead, cadmium, all toxic pigments go into them, and then the cost of painting them, repainting them, and the waste that goes. So the whole system of using those chemical colors we know is so harmful. So how do the, in nature, how do animals and birds and all have these fine colors, butterflies, beetles, and peacocks, but they don't have any pigments? That it is an optical effect that are lead and cadmium free. So there is no toxic waste also. Apart from having the color, they have many other functions also. That is, they protect them against ultraviolet rays, heat dissipation, water repellent, etc. Next slide, please. Yeah, so how is color created by them then? Color is created through many layers of proteins that refract the light in different ways. See, if you take a prism, it's colorless, but when sunlight passes through it, you can see 7 colors coming out of it because of refraction, is it not? So the nature, in nature, these insects and birds and all have this wonderful way of, they have layer proteins on them that refract the light in different ways, and you see those different colors. And it is also created based on the very thickness and structure of the fibers. It's so scientific, so technical, but it is all in nature. So copying that, we need not use paint, but we use this surface which is on the walls, or display boards they've already started using. Instead of neon lights or painted boards, they've started using this. That is by structure, the fibers. And as I told you, animals do not pursue one single objective with colors, but they have multiple functions. This Namibian beetle, which is black in color and which lives in the desert, but it has a, secures a low dew point and prevents the entry of heat from outside. Not just that, what it does is it condenses the water which is on the body, and it has the god has given it a gland kind of a thing near its mouth, so the dew drop condenses and flows into its mouth automatically. And this principle is actually used as fog collecting. Fog is collected and condensed to water. Next, please. Yeah, so like this, there are over 2,000 innovations. Now, how much I think I can, I was just thinking if I just should touch upon each one, or I can
Please,
go
please.
in detail. Okay, so I'm going to just talk about a few of them here, though there are more than 2,000 innovations. So one is, see, there are two types of innovations. One is the product innovation. The other is systems or process innovation. So now what I'm talking is mostly product innovation. Whatever earlier it was all a lot of process also, but many a times these product innovations become part of the system innovation also. So we start with stone paper. No one would ever dream of making paper from stone, but that's the way it is done. So it was first done in China very recently, like 2009, I think, if I remember correctly. We know that mines and quarries create dumps of dust particles, and they are so harmful to respiratory systems. And they, of course, lead to so many diseases. So, what is done is here is stone dust collected from these places is mixed with the bioresin, and then lo and behold, you make paper out of it. No water used, not a single drop is used, only the binding glue and the dust, and no bleach used, because the stone powder itself, when it is in the powder form, it is almost gray whitish in color. So you can use it as such. And then it has many other advantages: 100% recyclable, and no tree cut, because otherwise for the traditional paper, trees are cut. And actually paper industry is one of the most polluting industries. And here we have this paper where it is actually removing the pollution, that is removing the stone dust, and we get a paper which is much more long lasting. It doesn't tear too easily. So paper bags are made, they last and last forever, waterproof, grease proof. So, and then of course, when you leave the forest and forest land, uh, and don't use it for paper, then more food cultivation and soil also gets replenished. So you have solved so many problems by doing just one innovation of stone paper. And now in China, and I think now in other countries also, many books have been printed on stone paper. In Europe also, they have done it for textbooks, because then what happens is the textbook used by this one class, the next class need not, when they get promoted to the next class, they need not buy new books, because the old books won't tear. So it can be handed over. So it has many advantages apart from what we see here. The next one is electronics without batteries. Again, batteries is another no in terms of environment, whether it is a lithium ion battery or whatever battery we are using. Production itself causes pollution, and of course, disposal is another humongous problem. So, can we have electronics without batteries? Actually, it is still in the not pilot kind of a state now. So we know that the natural ecosystems, they can generate electricity based on, what is it based on? The electricity based on differential in pressure, pH and temperature. You use that. So this is a prototype cell phone which generates electricity from the temperature difference between our body and the telephone. And the next one is converts the pressure from our voice into piezoelectric source to project our words, and this continues till we continue talking. So these are some of the things which is really out of the box thinking. Can I go to next slide, please? Yeah, mother of pearl, we all know that it's very strong. Why is it so strong? It's so tough because it is an alternating layer of calcium carbonate, which is in a specially crystal form, and lustrine, a protein. There are two layers, and this is a layer and elastic layer of lustrine, which actually gives this remarkable toughness and strength. So can we copy it? Yes. So self-assembly process is used to create, in this case, for mineral, we are using clay and polymer layered structure. And this liquid material is allowed to self-assemble and harden. You're not doing any pressure, no temperature, nothing. All this is happening by evaporation induced low temperature process. As the nature would do. So this is another one where we are imitating or mimicking the abalone shell. Then solar panels, solar cells inspired by plants. We all want to, of course, we're using solar panels on a large scale, but they are all silicon-based solar cells. So it's very expensive one. And again, the question of sourcing and waste, ecological footprint, etc. So let's look at plants. How do they do it? Plants have their own solar cells, solar panels, which are the leaves, of course. And in seasonal climate change, they drop their leaves and again rebuild them using the clean solar power. So can we do that? So an alternative to the silicon-based solar cell is a dye-sensitive solar cell. So there's a dye used in the cell which absorbs the incoming photons and from the sun, and because of that, the electrons are moved out from the dye and in, there's a large surface. The solar panels are all large surface, and then there is an electrolyte which puts back electrons where the electrons had moved out. So there is a continuous flow of electrons, which is electricity, of course. So this process continues. So this actually is in use in some places. So these are the dye sensitive solar cells instead of the more expensive, more environmentally hazardous silicon based cells. And these are lighter also, not as heavy as the other solar panels that we use. Next slide, please. Yeah, metals without mining. Again, when we have to get metals from ores, one is, of course, you get very little from the ores and you have to smelt them, and you require so much of high temperatures, and you have waste, you have sludge to take care of, so many issues. And here I have to tell you that the e-waste, they are very rich in metals, concentration of metals. You just imagine that just 1 ton of computer waste has more gold than gold extracted from 17 tons of the ore itself. And now, as of now, e-waste is not treated properly in many countries. It's not managed properly. So, and also we know that microbes have the capacity to chelate, that is, they have affinity to metals. And that too, living cells, each one of them, they have a affinity to certain metals. So they will attach themselves only to those metals. That way, the metal is separated from the electronic waste. So this process is also happening. And what they do is the e-waste is powdered into a very fine powder. And this is passed over plastic sheets which run like conveyor belts. And this plastic sheet is covered with the chelating agent, which is any living, some microbes which are used as a chelating agent there. So that particular microbe will attach, take away that metal from the e-waste. And the e-waste, the powdered e-waste goes on, and these are all collected. So you get pure metal. So this way, again, you're extracting metals from the e-waste in a very, there is no heat, no temperature, no pressure. You're not using anything else, no chemicals used. Otherwise, it's so hazardous. In Delhi, if you go and see where the electronic waste is managed, there are small children sitting, putting their hands inside the acid bath and all. It is really horrible to even watch. So we need to look at alternatives because we are now producing more and more e-waste. And of course, we require metals also. So this is one of the things that we do, get metals without mining. Then this one is very important, and I think it's at this point of time because the COVID vaccine that we have now, these vaccines, they have to be stored and transported at very low temperatures, some of them as low as minus 70 degrees Celsius. So is there a way of transporting vaccines at room temperature safe? Yes. So that is called the anhydrobiosis inspired vaccine storage. Here, what we do is it's all very simple processes, not very complicated. The vaccine is spray dried with a sugar solution, and it forms like globules, glass spheres. And these glass spheres are suspended in an inert liquid, which is a perfluorocarbon. And this can be transported anywhere. Nothing happens to the vaccine. It is like desiccated coconut being taken out. So this is transported, and when it is injected into the body, the sugar dissolves, releasing the vaccine. It's such a wonderful and very simple process. And what are the advantages? No refrigeration required, no contamination because the vaccine is inside that sugar globule. And they say that experts say that this slow release also might reduce the need for booster dose. I think in this COVID or whatever times, I hope there is no more of those COVID types coming up and this should go away. But I think we need to, vaccines are going to be there forever. So we need to look at how we can apply this to transport vaccines. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is pine cones inspired smart clothing. And this is, see, we need to observe nature. How does it manage things? That is why biomimicry. We want to learn, we want to mimic nature. So pine cones, actually the scales are made of two layers of fibers acting in different directions. One opens like this, one moves like this. So the seeds also gets thrown out of them. So looking at that, scientists have developed this smart clothing, which has two layers, of course. So one of them has small spikes, fine spikes like fibers. And when outer temperature falls, the spikes close and the outside air is blocked. And when we feel hot, then the spikes open to let the outside air enter and cool us. What a cool idea. And the second layer, of course, is waterproof. So this is designed, this is smart clothing is designed based on looking at pine cones. Then the mollusk inspired epoxy. So mussels actually produce an epoxy with adhesive properties which are better than any super glue. So it remains, and the important thing is it remains intact in seawater, and it is created at relatively low temperature and is environmentally safe. So scientists are trying to copy this to make this epoxy. It's still in the pilot stage. Next slide, please. Yeah, now I want to speak a little bit about what we are doing in Bundelkhand region, where development alternatives has many initiatives. One of them being, I told you about Tara Gram. That is it's a technology village where we have more than 2 dozen innovative ideas, and people have been trained on it, and most of them are actually used. I'll just talk about a few of them. Gaushala project, I'm sure most of the things are used, applied in many other gaushalas across our country. There is hardly anything new in it, but all of them have been, this is managed by women, one, rural poor women, and the growing of oyster mushrooms on the agri waste was the one which was introduced by Chido. So that actually added another income flow, cash flow for them. And the another one is that is biofuel from Besharam. It's called Besharam because you cut it and it grows without any shame, very fast. And it is actually Ipomia cornea, which grows along with the water bodies. And it was a huge problem. We had to hire people to remove them. So instead of that, it is used in fuel briquettes, and it is used at homes as instead of coal. I mean, now of course very few people use coal stoves, but mainly it is used to generate electricity. So this is used in small shops, like where they have chakki, atta chakkis, and all those places, and small households also. They are using this plant to these fuel briquettes for generating electricity. Then development alternatives is, no, 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 please, previous slide only. Yeah, it's very well known for the eco-friendly building materials and designs also. If you are in Delhi, there is a Marti Gar, or the Indira Gandhi Center for Arts, which has been built in Janpath, which is made from uh, mud bricks, which are not, it's just sun, and there is hardly any steel or aluminium used in the construction of that, though there are arcs and domes. And a new building here in the Kutub Institutional area, that is also an eco-friendly building, in which even during the building process, the ecological footprint is less, and there is no waste goes out of the building. So this building has been given the LEED Platinum Award also. So that also, when Nagapatnam cyclone happened, people from development alternatives went there and trained the people to make. It's not that you go and make the house for them, but train the people to make those and then build their homes so that they also have livelihoods. Then we have a Tara Akshar program, because literacy is very important, and community radio. These are only some of the things that I have mentioned here. So we can go to the next slide. So what we need to look is, let's not demand more from Earth, but let's do more with what Earth provides us with. I can close here. Thank you.
One
One
second,
second,
madam.
madam.
I'll
I'll
just.
just.
I think I finished it before time. It's okay.
Yeah,
I can time for question answers if you're ready.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just give us
Just give
two
us two
minutes,
minutes,
ma'am.
Yeah, yeah,
ma'am.
sure, 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 sure.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
It was very, very informative, and you have taken us, including me. Yeah, I'm spellbound. So will be the others. Very different angle of living along with ecosystems. It's something uh, we have learned a bit.
Yeah.
Probably we will try. We will use it. When we talk about this ZERI, that is talking beyond sustainability,
Yes. Yeah.
uh, beyond sustainability, it's something which is a new concept uh,
Hmm.
for for the entrepreneurs, not only entrepreneurs, the management people, not only the management people, you can say to the schools, children, starting from school children, the higher
Yeah.
education
That is why
institution.
we have ZERI education program also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm sure, coming from a core of heart, this webinar is going to be referred by many people rather across the country and maybe outside also because of our alumni. Something very, very informative, and I'm really thankful to you for giving us an insight about something new, which I honestly have never thought of. Something like
Okay.
something like
Okay.
this is happening parallelly in my next
Hmm.
door, but I'm not aware. Yeah, because we are too busy to live
Hmm.
our own life, and we are
Yeah.
finishing it very quickly without seeing what can we do potentially. And I'm sure this is going to be a library material for future in the days to come. Jerry is doing a
No,
wonderful job.
yeah, I do train and talk about it to teachers and lecturers and at different places about this because it's high time that we think this way.
I'm sure we will take it to the Ministry of Education.
Yeah.
I will personally take it. That's my
Yeah. Yeah.
assurance.
Okay.
I will take it every second day. I'm there. I'm sure I'll take it up with the concerned people, those who are there, and this we will make it as a CD and we will give it to Education Department to see how we can work
Yeah.
on it. Before that, our personal invitation for you to again visit Gandhigram because you have visited Gandhigram, you've seen Gandhigram.
Yeah.
That was too
Yeah.
small.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
That was
I
too
will.
small.
I would love to come. Yeah.
Yeah. We will try and invite you as quick as possible. Definitely, we are going to do it. And you must come to Gandhigram, see what we can do together, explore
Yeah.
the opportunities because now we have a home science department, we have physics, we have chemistry,
Hmm.
we have agriculture, and we have alternate energies also.
Various parts.
So
Yeah.
now the things have changed
I see.
a lot. So we should work out for some sort of curriculum for the students in the days to come.
Hmm.
Probably that will give insight to many people. These are all small things, but
Yeah.
yes, this makes difference, huge
They make
difference.
a big difference. They
Yes,
make a big difference. Yeah.
it makes a big difference. So before getting into this question and answer session, uh,
Yeah.
there are many questions which has come, which is very specific, and we'll send it
Okay.
across to you by mails.
Yeah. Sure.
I'll
Sure.
have,
Sure.
I'll have because I know your time is valuable. We have wasted a couple of minutes in technology because of the.
No, no, no,
Uh,
it's okay. It's okay. So probably I rushed through the last few slides thinking that probably time is not there. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah.
so, uh, first thing came to my mind when you spoke about science mimicry.
Yeah.
You
Biomimicry. Yeah.
you have elaborated in a different forms, but uh, how can we start with schools in this particular fashion? What should we do to the schools in terms of
Hmm.
bringing it as an habit to children so that they grow along with. Now if you see the
Yeah.
schools are teaching students on various things, and these
Hmm.
students pick up in right spirit right from their.
Of course they do. They do. They do. Yeah. Yeah.
So how
Yeah.
can how
Yeah.
can we approach the school with the science mimicry to begin with?
Yeah. The first thing is, of course, we have, and including children, we have stopped observing nature. Point one. And we think of ourselves as something separate from nature, and we think we are mastering over nature, and we know the best. We have the best methods and principles and whatever, but nature knows much better than us. We need to be humble first to understand and appreciate what nature is doing, because it has been there for millions of years so successfully, as I said. And so, first thing is to observe. I also do these tree walks because I'm a very great admirer and I feel that trees have to be saved. So, I do tree walks for teachers, public, and students. So, when I take them around, say, Lodi Garden in Delhi, they cannot actually identify. If you ask them the name of a tree, even common trees, they are not able to tell. Though they might have done projects on trees, got beautiful pictures from the computer, downloaded, and details about those trees, and but they see them in the nature outside, real trees, they cannot identify because they've never observed what is around them. They have never appreciated, or they have never hugged a tree. I always make people hug a tree and then feel the leaves. Look at what is outside your house. Even trees and birds and what all the natural processes. Earlier, sparrows used to be in Delhi, and sparrows used to make nests in the courtyards and all. And as it is not that it is a lesson, but we saw how they lived, how they built their nests. And we used to walk into the ridge forest, which was very safe those days. We observed many birds, and we collected plants, though we didn't know the name of those plants at all, but we appreciated them. So first thing is observing what is around you. It is not seeing, it is observing. And observing especially nature and the elements of nature, and then appreciate and try to understand what they are doing, how they are doing, and please feel that you are a part of nature and you are a student of nature. You need to learn from natural processes. That's one. Second, of course, is apart from biomimicry, you have to be innovative. See, you have to keep dreaming. Even now, there is no age limit. Whether you are young or old, you have to continue dreaming. It's not just a waste of daydreaming. Don't think like that. Because we dreamt of some of the initiatives that I talked about. Sometimes people, I'm sure somebody dreamt of it,
Yes, sir.
otherwise, thought of it. So, never think that this is not possible. So you have to, that's the second point, is you have to be optimistic, and you have to think that the out of the box thinking has to be encouraged. For this, I have actually a series of not experiments, but those kinds of things which I give to the students, so that they can't solve that problem by the usual way that
Method.
they solve problems, but they need to think differently, because we have to train the children to think differently. Lateral thinking, vertical thinking, or angular thinking, whatever you call, in all directions they have to think to find a problem. Because what we do, I mean, teachers also try to do is, what teachers know, they teach. Is it not? But there is
Absolutely.
much more than what we know. And when children ask questions, many a times we are not able to answer. Even parents are not able to answer, the teachers are not able to answer, and the teacher has to have the humility to say that this can't be answered, but it can have other possibilities, whatever. So that is, of course, besides the point. The thing is the innovative way of thinking, the creativity in the children. And so the ZERI fables also, they have, of course, the story part, which has this 36 books are there as of now in India. Some of them we have got them translated, because all these books are bilingual. One is English and the other one is the local language. So we have done something in Hindi and English together. In Spain, it is Spanish and English, of course. Japan, Japanese, it's like that. And in China, they have done on stone paper the book itself, the fables. And at the end of the fables, there's a whole, not one section, many sections on about the scientist, how he thought of it. or she thought of it? How did they arrive at this? And also many activities which are given. So ZERI fables also, actually I have used them. National Bal Bhavan, every year they have a meet of teachers coming from other states. They have the annual meet. So I'm invited to go and talk to them. So when I talk to them, I also give them these ideas, and ZERI fables have been distributed. Actually, the bilingual ones have been distributed to those teachers from the National Bal Bhavan. That happened a few years back. So those books also help. And the ZERI educational initiative itself, I've got some teachers training modules for them, how to train the teachers and what is for the children. Because for any problem that is there is no solution already present, but we think of solutions based on what is known. Okay? That's not enough,
Enough.
because you have to find something which is not known. that,
True.
that solution, and that we take from nature. So biomimicry itself is a course. Actually, it's a college course that you can do, not in our country, but that is the new science. It's the cutting edge science that we call of this century.
Evolving one.
Huh, huh.
It's evolving.
So understanding the natural processes and actually applying it in processes and product development solution for problems, etc. And also problems are dealt with not just by scientists or engineers, but as this is a group of all many kinds of people coming together, designers. How can you design this? How can you do this? An architect, with actually what we talked about is termite inspired architecture, etc. So
You
it is actually a whole process which has to start from schools, the way of thinking. Yeah.
great one, ma'am. You are a live wire ZERI activist because you
Not
have
just
answered.
Zeriite, not just Zeriite. I have to tell you this, though I didn't want to talk about it at all. When I got the National Science Talent Scholarship, we were invited to Rashtrapati Bhavan. At that time, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan was the president. So when he was giving away the certificates and all, he was asking each one of us what we wanted to become and all. I stood in front of him and I said, I want to be an educator or teacher. So I think it is, and also another thing is learner. One has to be a lifelong learner and lifelong educator. Educator, of course, comes later, but learner is what has to come first. So people think that this is the age at which this is for not just for students, also for others also, that age by which I can study this much. But I studied art appreciation and did a training course to become a guide in the National Museum Janpat just 3 years back. So it's like one has to keep oneself abreast and also keep interested in new things, new way of thinking, innovations. Always keep be creative in what you're doing. Even the mundane things, can I do it in a different way? The regular things, the daily things, can I do it in a different way? Can I optimize what I'm doing? So it's a way of thinking also that we need to encourage.
I told this with full conviction because you have answered five of the questions in one question.
Oh, good, 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 good.
You have answered five of the questions. The last question was how to train the trainers.
Oh,
So you have come
okay.
to that level. Fantastic.
Okay.
That's why I said with conviction that you are alive. It's great to see someone like this. Now, I have come to the sixth question, not
Yeah,
second question. Now
yeah,
it is sixth question.
yeah.
We, Gandhigram, you have experienced it.
Huh.
Our strength is uh, lab to land sort of village adoption and development. We adopt villages
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we do a
To
lot.
reach the unreached. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
How can we do this kind of practices in villages? Can you just explain so that we reach out to
Uh,
rural
yeah,
first?
but I can't offhand tell this because this is something very serious and it requires a lot of thought and planning. So I can't answer this
But
offhand like this.
definitely
Yeah,
we will
it's
invite
easy
you
to say
there.
something.
Yeah,
No, it's easy to say something superficially, but I wouldn't want to do that. If I have to say something, it has to be something serious that, how it can really be done. So you'll have to give time in the sense I have to
definitely
think.
we will. That is what at the outset I have extended an invitation. When we go there, this is one
Hmm.
model which we need to see, and this is a uniqueness of our institution. That's why I'm
Ah,
emphasizing on it. This is the uniqueness of our institution.
yeah.
Uh,
And see, I am not a big scientist. Okay. So for many of the things, we will have to consult the scientists.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I simply live my life like this. Leave the expertise who are experts to do right things instead of you
Yes.
breaking your
Correct.
head. So that's
Yes. Correct.
that's how we need to engage. It could be a
Yeah.
child, it could be a scientist. A child
Yeah.
only
Correct.
turns to be a scientist. So this is how the evaluation is. We need to leave it to the right people to take up
Yeah.
the way they want, and the
Yeah.
innovation, as you rightly said,
Yeah.
is
Yes.
on that basis.
Yeah.
Real life contribution, it cannot be
Mm.
taught.
Yeah.
It should come from within.
Yeah.
I have one question, that's the last one, because the 7 or 8 questions have been addressed by you quickly, very sharply.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
what is the messages, what is the message you are, we need to give to schools or school education first, then to the higher education institution, because new education policy is evolved.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now the new
Uh,
education policy
yeah.
is going to be enforced. What
Mm.
value addition can we expect from this?
See, I haven't gone through the full education policy as such, but I was attending that webinar organized by India International Center on the new education policy and also spoke to a few people about it. But as I told you, we have the school system as of now is more towards textbooks. And I have seen this happening in schools that science is taught by the questions are there at the end of the lesson and the answers are marked in pages. Say for this question, this is the answer. So you learn this by heart and then you get good marks. Even history, because history cannot be taught from books. There are so many historical monuments in Delhi. See, I used to run a teachers research center where I invited historians, famous historians, to come and train the teachers, not from one school, but from many public schools in Delhi. So they actually told the teachers that take them to monuments and you start a lesson in Qutub Minar. And early, I'm sure even now it must be happening because you take them to laboratories, you have interactions with scientists, you have interactions with environmentalists, you have interaction with mathematicians, you have interactions with great literary people. So these interactions are very important for school education. It's not what you get from the textbook. Science can be taught without a textbook. There is no need for a textbook for science, only that these concepts broadly, these are the concepts which have to be covered. I don't know whether you have heard of Arvind Gupta ji.
No, not to, not.
Okay, so he was actually from IIT and he did his MBA, and then he left his corporate job and said, looked at how science is being taught, and he felt so bad that this is not the way science has to be done. So he has written many books and he is now working with Ayuka, and it's mainly this his books I have used to teach children in creche where the children had never gone to school earlier.
Sure, ma'am, sure.
Yeah,
It's a
so
new.
how it is done is I'll just give you one example
Yeah,
because we do not give value to the knowledge that the child already has.
absolutely,
Whether it is all kinds of knowledge,
absolutely.
mathematics, I've actually got involved in 5 years, 4 years of research in primary school mathematics where we looked at what is the mathematics they already know, and we don't consider that at all. We consider them as empty heads or blank slates. They are not. They know a lot about mathematical thinking. Without telling them how to carry over, they carry over in different ways. They solve the problem. Even when you don't teach them carryovers, starting from class 1, I'm telling you how it happens. The same way, science also, when I used to use these toys. I used to call these science classes because this creche had children of laborers building, involved in building. Uh, and in that site, I was teaching them. So it's age group probably from a toddler to 16. So I used to tell them, आज वो खिलौना बनाएंगे
Hmm.
हम लोग. So from Arvind Guptaji's books, I would make something which is actually highly scientific, but made out of very simple things like straw and wool. I'm just taking one example.
Beautiful.
So, one straw and just one loop of wool. So, when you blow through the straw, you would expect that the wool will move in the direction in which you blow.
Yeah.
But when the children do that, they will see that the wool is moving in the opposite direction.
Wow.
It is not moving in the direction in which you blew the air.
Yeah.
So,
This is how we think.
yeah, so I asked the children, ऐसे क्यों हो रहा है? These children, mind you, have not gone to any school. They have not studied maths, they have not studied science, they have not studied anything. So I told them, आप सोचो कि ये ऐसे क्यों हो रहा है? So they discussed, and then they said that हम जब फूंक मारते हैं, I'm going to speak in Hindi, the
Yeah.
exact thing that the
Please.
boy said. हम जब फूंक मारते हैं, तो वहां से हवा भाग गई. हाँ, तो वहां हवा नहीं है, तो ऊन वहां की दौड़ के आ गया.
Oh,
ठीक है.
it replaces
This
here.
is Bernoulli's principle in the
Ah,
child's life.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's
Okay.
wonderful.
So that much of science is there in the child. The scientific way of thinking is there in the child. Can you appreciate that? Of course, we need to appreciate and understand. That's why when you said new education policy, this policy has to understand. I'm sure there are many more experts. I'm not an expert at all. Would know that children have this innate understanding of science, innate understanding of mathematics, etc., and fine arts too.
True.
All these, they have an innate understanding of it, and we have to make use of that innate understanding, give value to that, and build upon that, instead of telling that this is what it is, you don't know anything, this is the way you have to add, this is the way you have to do. And also we use wrong languages when we are teaching, because when we are carrying over question problems, they will say carry over 1, whereas you are actually carrying over 10 to the 10th place, and we use wrong terms, so we convey wrong things. So I mean, this is, I don't know, it will be a different lecture altogether, big lecture on just mathematics teaching. But yeah, I've forgotten what the question was now.
It's very difficult to ask questions to you because you answer many. This we were talking about in the pretext of new education policy.
Yeah.
How can
That's
we
what.
take?
So, yeah, one is to understand that innate understanding of science, mathematics, whatever other things in the child, and to build on it, and not to make teaching based on textbooks. There is much more than textbooks. For that, probably teachers might require a separate handbook. Of course, some are available even now in the form of, call them workbooks. I don't know what they are called, but they require that, and also in-service training for teachers. And the B.Ed course itself, I think, needs to be
Revamped.
looked at,
Yeah,
relooked at,
relooked.
revamped. Because
True.
what B.Ed and M.Ed courses, I mean, I've gone through them for namesake, I should say, because to get. But I mean, I did gain some knowledge out of them, but still, I feel that they need to be revamped too, the training courses for the teachers.
I have a fantastic friend who asks a question. I come back to you. What you said is
Yeah,
correct.
yeah,
He's Joint Secretary in Ministry of Education, Mr. Sanjay Kumar
yeah.
Sinha. He asks a question always: Why should we consider someone a civil engineer to construct a dam?
Not very good question. Very good
Why
question.
to
Yeah,
put that as a precondition that yes,
yeah.
this person should be there. If you know
No.
how to construct, it's more than
Hmm.
enough. Naturally, people can deliver. That is what the concept, what he always says. I really salute the person because he has that kind of vision. He is sitting
Vision. Yeah,
in the
yeah.
ministry.
That is what, you want people with vision for this. Yeah.
Anyway, ma'am, it was really inspiring to hear you. That's the first one. Second thing, it is informative, not only
Hmm.
inspiring. Inspiring can be in various things, various ways, but informative. And the language which is used was so simple that
Hmm.
anybody can understand. Even a child who goes through. I have referred it while discussing. I was telling my colleague, requesting my colleague to send it to a couple of kids, those
Hmm.
whom we feel that yes, they can come up to this level. So
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was
No,
it,
it has to see what is the purpose of this. This is communication. So if you're not able to communicate and you're going to use jargons and complicated and complex things to begin with itself, then it doesn't reach the people. Nothing gets communicated. So,
there is always a category of backbenchers everywhere. They sleep, but in this kind of webinar no one can sleep.
hmm. No, actually, I was no, no, no. I was actually a little scared because I can't see. I always like to see the people whom I'm talking to, how they respond to various things, and then accordingly take my speech or presentation or whatever forward. Here there was nobody, so I felt like I don't know what I'm saying, how people are taking it, how people are responding to it, what is the take home for them. So
This concept of this webinars I have seen because I am conducting this for almost now. It's over 35, 34, 35 webinars of such thing. What I have seen
great.
in this webinar is, ma'am, it reaches to people and
Hmm.
it gets referred.
Okay.
It
That's
gets
something very
referred.
good. Okay, okay,
So
okay. Huh.
we have a couple of people. Your subject may be of interest to someone, may not be interest to
Hmm.
someone. So we cannot say that you make say, people to sit in the hall and you deliver
Hmm.
a lecture and think that 100% of the population has sunk in with nothing like that. It happens.
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah,
this
yeah.
particular webinars, how it comes is it goes to like-minded people. This is
Uh-huh.
what I have seen.
Hmm.
Referrals is what
Hmm.
we call it in educational term like citation. It is
Okay.
in the domain.
Uh-huh.
Whoever is
Which can
visiting,
be referred to again. Yeah.
it is getting referred. The
Hmm.
success of our program, I can proudly say, is the references.
Okay.
A good listener listens
Hmm.
to it, and without any failure, he sends to five like-minded
Uh,
person. It is
hmm.
getting reflected. It is getting referred,
Hmm.
and it goes to many people.
Many
Like
people.
some of our thing, one of our webinar has cost 600, 500, 300. The viewers at the point of webinar is zero, maybe five,
Uh-huh.
maybe
Uh,
10. But over a period
hmm.
of 3 to 5 days, it becomes
Hmm.
so huge.
Hmm.
So the
Hmm.
strength of our webinar, I can say, I can claim it proudly that it is been getting referred to like-minded
Hmm.
people.
Very good, very good. I'm so happy that you have started this in the period of COVID. COVID. It's so difficult, to get across to people with new
It's very
ideas and
easy. It is very
yeah,
easy. I took it the other way, like you think. People say it is
yeah.
very difficult, but I took it the other way.
No, it has
Uh,
its own advantages too,
yeah,
because unreachables are reached.
within no time we are reaching UK, US.
Yeah,
I'm getting calls from those people, those who are there, and they're
yeah.
saying someone called me last week. He don't even know who
Huh,
am I,
huh.
but he called up and said your this particular program was very good, very
Good,
informative. I asked
very
him,
good.
sir, how did you get the references? He said, I don't know. Someone told to
Mm-hmm.
someone, someone told to someone, and that someone told to me. So
That's
I am
how
not
some.
able to connect you.
Okay, okay, okay,
This
okay,
is how
okay.
we are getting,
Uh,
but they are trying to reconnect it. I'm sure
mm,
that is why I said this is going to be a library material for the
mm,
future to refer. I'm pretty
mm.
sure about it. And
Okay.
I'm really thankful to you because now it's time of closure, and we need to do that for formal closure. We will be in touch again and again. That much
Huh.
I'm expecting that we should do much in the days to come. But a formal
Mhm.
thanks is required, and formal acknowledgement is required, and a formal closure is also required for a webinar. So let me close it formally. I thank Usha ji. You have come into our webinar series, and we are really very happy to have you in this. You had very insightful initiatives. It is not a discussion; it was initiatives. So that it provokes people to come to some level of out of box thinking, which management says that out of box thinking is must. This is management mantra today. You have spoken on ZERI, Zero Emission Research Initiatives Beyond Sustainability. And I thank you on behalf of Gandhigram Rural Institute, deemed to be university. And we welcome you once again. I'll request you to come in a different topic to speak on a different thing. Let me thank you very much, ma'am, for being with us, spending your precious time amidst your very busy schedule. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be in touch with you and many other people. And I hope that it will be useful to many others, as you said, and it will reach them. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am. You can opt out.